Yes, now I request Professor Subendu Vikas Santra to start his session. Okay, sir. You just share your slide and start your session, sir.
Sure, madam. I'm sharing.
Okay.
Okay, so is it visible, madam, the screen?
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Okay, so in the morning half, due to some problem that discussion was not completed, so I will try to finish it up quickly. I was discussing about the requirement of the capacitor, and thing is already discussed previously. Now, you see here the capacitor selection of the particular circuit. There is a resonance circuit. I already told that L and C, it will form a resonating time, and this resonating time you have to carefully select. And if you that depends upon L value and C value, and the resonating time. Let us say you have a switching frequency because you are basically giving a duty ratio, and that switching frequency timing is, let us say, TS is here, and so therefore duty ratio may vary from 0.1 to 0.8. So this resonating time should be selected in such a way that it will actually have a greater period. So let us say this is your T, that is the TR. Okay, so this TR should be greater or equal to the switching time. If you do not select it, what will happen? There will be an oscillation. So this is the first primary, the equation which actually governs, which is guiding us, and that to detect the requirement of the capacitor value. And in the morning, I already discussed that it is basically converting dependent current source to dependent voltage source, so that I can connect a voltage source with converters. Now in the next slide, it is not only that impact, it has different impact as well, because this capacitor value actually determines the system dynamics, and this diode actually prevents that any kind of back power flow which can come from the converter side to the photovoltaic side. So diode is actually giving a protective element here. Now next, you see in this diagram, I have given a structure which gives proper circuit, proper analysis of how the circuit actually behaves. So generally, if you have to implement any kind of algorithm or MPPT, basically you need to sense current and sense the voltage, and that will feed it to any kind of MPPT algorithm, and that will give you any kind that duty ratio, which generally that fix the operating point, basically converts, or it is a converging characteristics, and it fixes the operating point so that you can maintain a VMPP at that particular point, and correspondingly maximum power can be traced. See here, I have given a perturbation kind of irradiation. So irradiation changes is like in this way, and let us say you do not select your capacitor value properly. Okay, or any value you have arbitrarily selected, that is not actually a good solution. And what may happen, that if the capacitor value is, fortunately you have selected a very less value, let us say for an example. So what will happen, that for under the irradiation change, it will change the capacitor voltage. As in the morning class I told you that the dynamics, how the dynamics changes, and after that MPPT algorithm actually works. So this delay is because of the system dynamics, and this delay is because of the processing delay, because all the current and voltage sense, whatever you are doing in the digital control, all the analog signal is first converted to digital signal, so there is a delay involved in the process. So first delay is for system delay, the second delay is for processing and implementation delay. So if you fortunately unknowingly selected a capacitor value with less value, then what will happen, that immediately whenever the change happens and the irradiation, the capacitor voltage will track the new VMPP required after the algorithm. So here you see, this is your initial PK point. Okay, this is a reference power, and here also at the same after the processing delay or sensing delay or this kind of execution time, if you add them together, so after that per time that you have the same kind of reference and available power you can get. So there is a error. If you see error here, error is very less. Similarly, after that time t1, let us say up to t2, if you investigate, then you can find that during this T1, the perturbation changes of the irradiation. So therefore, you have the new power point PK here. And after this processing delay and all the system delay, then your capacitor voltage settles to the new PMPP after the algorithm. So what happens, that here at that particular point, so you can consider this particular point, you have the new power point. So basically, it is tracking the maximum power for every irradiation. But what about the energy loss? Already you know that you can see here in this graph. So this is your reference power at that particular time. You should immediately change. That means at that particular time the reference power changes, but you are not getting that same amount of power for this particular time. So what happens after some point of time, you are actually achieving this. So therefore the difference, this is actually time difference, del t. So del t multiplied by power will give you the energy loss. Okay, so during this MPPT process, this is the energy loss, which is very less, and ideally we say it's a zero MPPT error. Okay, and why it is so? Because the system dynamics is so fast and it is able to achieve or go to that new value of MPP, VMPP, in a very lesser amount of time. So you actually in a wastage here is very less. Now, if you are not fortunate enough, you are not selected capacitor value properly. Maybe you are sometimes, that is a thumb rule that you put 1000 microfarad to 15,000 microfarad here. Okay, and then what will happen? You are basically you are making the source a steep source so that your converter can work properly. So if you do that, then what will happen? You see this diagram. So under the irradiation changes, so your reference point, let us say for the same time T1, your reference point power is changing here, and but as the voltage changes, takes some time, so this time actually increases because of the higher capacitor value, and then processing delay, and then there's a settlement of new VMPP. So therefore at this particular point of time you can have a new reference power. So before that you can have, you see that you actually continue with the previous power. Okay, and whereas your reference power actually changes at that particular time T1. Okay, so if you see it carefully and if you multiply this del T along with the power, you can have this amount of extra energy loss, where this is the previous one and this is the red one is the extra one. And this red what is given, what I have noted here, this red one is the extra energy loss is happening because of the improper selection of the capacitor value. Okay, so in previous slide I shown you that one criteria, that the resonating time, okay, that time should be greater than the switching time. Okay, and that the resonating time is basically one that pi root half cycle resonating time pi root LC. So that is one equation. And the second criteria is that you have to understand, and the our requirement is that the delay of this TPV should be as minimum as possible, so that we can have a lesser amount of error in tracking the power point, or basically we can reduce the energy wastage to extract power from this particular source to basically the load. Okay, now what I did to solve this problem, I analyzed the total photovoltaic along with the capacitor in a circuital model. Okay, and we know that the parameter extraction model can be used successfully to see the system dynamics, parameters are involved which actually governs the system dynamics of the particular capacitor voltage, because that voltage are actually you are sensing here. Okay, and if the voltage change is very slow, but then that automatic algorithm change will also be slow, and therefore you will come up with a solution that where you are extracting power or the maximum, but at a larger interval, so you will have wasted a lot of energy within that period of time. So now in the next slide, see here that I have seen same capacitor I have taken. Let us say this is your load, that variable load. I mean, if you have a converter here, so you just reflect the secondary load and to the primary side. So you can consider this Z to be your load. Now, of course, it is a nonlinear circuit, and you know that there is an operating point. So if you fix this operating point here, and based on this operating point, you analyze that that the change of this capacitor voltage, what are the parameters? It depends. If you solve this equation, you can get this thing. Okay, whereas it has a some portion is steady and some portion is exponentially decaying. So let us say I have a perturbation change here of the voltage. So what is happening? Ideally, at that very instant, the capacitor voltage should change to that particular value, but it is not like that. It has one steady portion, which is this. Another portion is exponentially decaying portion. So maybe you can consider this is the exponential portion, and if you add them together, you can get this is the response. Okay, and this response is happening because of this transient thing. Okay, so if you consider this transient thing here, this transient thing, then you can actually understand that how far the slope is dependent. So if you consider this slope and if you increase the slope, then what will happen, that decaying slope maybe here, or maybe you can make it more faster that depends upon proper selection of the time constant. So what I did, I have taken the only transient portion, okay, and I have taken a derivative of the transient portion. Why derivative? Because derivative will give you the slope. Let us say I have a slope in this particular direction. I want to find out the maximum slope for particular curve. So what I have to do, I have to take a derivative, and if I take a derivative out of it, so you will get this, from this transient equation, you can get this value of m. And you see, interestingly, this m value, what you actually want, you want that m value should be, or the slope should be as high as possible. That means it should not be in here, it should be in this particular position, so that the transient decay will be fast, and so that you can have the capacitor voltage tracking to the new value in a very lesser amount of time, so tau. So after doing that, I am getting this equation. I got this equation. So II into RSH, so into CF by RSH into RSH into RCC. RSH and RSH is shunt resistance of the PV panel, and RAC is the series resistance of the PV panel. So they are actually dependent on the PV panel. So this is not external model. This is an internal model. So how I can use this thing? I can use a parameter extraction model, and from there I can use these value. Okay, and then I can see that I want at for what value of the capacitor I can get this m parameter very high. So if I get the slope very high, I can guarantee that okay, the capacitor voltage, I mean dynamics will be faster, and the time delay will be low, and there will energy wastage, less energy wastage from the extraction of the PV power. Okay, now going for a parameter extraction model, if you use this paper, is very fundamental paper. It is published in 1990. If you, I have actually used this thing, this model. If you use it, it has dependent on temperature, voltage. E here is the voltage. Okay, output capacitor is mentioned here. So now you put this, all this value is mentioned, and it is found in this paper. You can find it in the paper. So I have used it in the model. If you do that, then you can find out that okay, so what is the variable, what is the value of the m you are getting. So or a tan, or basically tan theta, tangent, okay, or fastest slope you may, for the sake. So let's say CF value 0.2 per unit. Here I have taken 1 per unit to be 1000 microfarad. Okay, so for the analysis I have taken 1 per unit to be 1000 microfarad. So 0.2 microfarad, different irradiation change, different temperature change, I have seen that m value. Okay, similarly I have checked for CF 0.6 per unit, and I have seen the different variation of irradiation and different variation of temperature as well, and I found these two value. Again, for other values of capacitor, let us say 0.8 per unit and 1.5 per unit. So you can see that when you increase the capacitor value, then your m value is actually reducing. Okay, the maximum value of m you are getting when your capacitor value is 0.2 per unit. Okay, so you see in this graph I have drawn, you think that when you have taken 1.5 per unit capacitor, so it takes a longer amount of time to reach to the new VMPP. And here, if you have a lesser amount of capacitor, you have faster tracking thing, and you can get a very lesser amount of time, you can get a new VMPP. So this characteristics is actually required in photovoltaic power extraction. So generally this CF is recommended, but it has a problem. Problem means we cannot directly say that 200 microfarad is down the solution, because 200 microfarad solution we have to check, because first thing is that I already mentioned that you have to check the resonating time. Okay, and that resonating time is the first criteria. Second criteria, I told you, based on the slope, that it should be value should be required very less, which is 0.2 per unit. Now there is other dimension to look into it. In the next slide, that is the temperature variation. Also you can check for different temperature variation. If your value is 0.2 per unit, okay, then you can have a maximum amount of slope, because slope do not only depend upon the voltage, but also depends upon the temperature. So here, if you increase the temperature, then you can also, for different value of capacitor, then you can see the slope is maximum, or m value is maximum for the case of capacitor 0.2 value. Okay, so that's what is written here. So therefore it is recommended to that 0.2 per unit should be the capacitor value, but there are other dimension as well. So resonating time is the one thing, second time is this transient time or the slope value, and the third thing, if you have using this DC grid, let us say this photovoltaic panel and then DC converter, and then after that you want to use an inverter and to connect it to the AC load, and then the capacitor value whatever you have selected, it should not impact the system. Okay, so that capacitor value should be foolproof. So therefore the third dimension of the analysis, here it goes like this. So let us say now you are happy that okay, we have got some idea that capacitor should be what range you should select. But now this capacitor along with that have a boost converter, and that this capacitor is the output capacitor, and this again the output side is being connected to the inverter before you connect to AC kind of load, or for the say that you are connected to the grid. So if you do that, and if you do the analysis, you see that to supply, basically to supply a 50 hertz here, 50 hertz is a AC source. I am assuming 50 hertz is the AC source here you want to supply. So you will find that there is a second harmonic 100 hertz ripple present. Okay, so it is 50 hertz. Okay, and it is the 100 hertz. So 100 hertz ripple will be present inside the capacitor voltage, or if you put a voltage graph, you see the 100 hertz will be present. Now the problem is that capacitor value, what you have to select at the output side of this converter, okay, it should kill this second harmonic, so that it will not impact the life of the capacitor, but also it will it should not impact the switching loss performance of the inverter. So there decoupling DC side is important. Okay, so now you see the problem is now coming from this capacitor to this particular capacitor. Okay, so if you analyze it, I will not give much time on this analysis. You see I have noted the let us say voltage source is a sinusoidal source, and current, of course there is a inductance, so therefore there is a phase difference between voltage and current, and power output equal to VSC into ISC, the node voltage, and if you multiply them together, okay, and VSC is this, if you multiply them together, you will get this is the average power and this is the ripple power. Okay, so this ripple power is culprit of having this second harmonic voltage which is present inside the DC bus. Okay, so DC bus is not a pure DC bus. It has a problem of 100 hertz ripple, and it is happening because of this ripple power, and ripple power is not zero. Now you have to just analyze the ripple power, and you have to find this dynamic equation. Let me go back to the slide here. So this DC current, here capacitor current, here the load current. If you see that the input current IDC is equal to capacitor current plus this load current, and if you just write this equation, then you have this first order differential equation. If you solve this first order differential equation, you can get the range of the capacitor value what you should select. Okay, and that so that you can eliminate the ripple power. Basically, you can eliminate the dominance of the second harmonic or 100 hertz ripple inside the DC link capacitor. So this is your range. Okay, so this is your range, and this is the minimum capacitor value you are allowed to select, out of which you can select more value, that is okay, but this is the range of, I mean, the minimum value of the capacitor you actually can select here. Okay, so so now now you have input capacitor CF here. Now your output side capacitor of the boost converter, you already know from this equation you can select, but these two capacitor should be should be matching to each other. So in next slide I'll be showing it to you how it is important. So first is that, okay, from the discussion you understand, okay, CF value should be 0.2, and the second here you said there is a resonant capacitor should be matching here also as well, and the C minimum capacitor value from the analysis you got, that should be the value. But here, as per the two-port network theorem, here is the input port and here is the output port, let us say, and we have this capacitor and we have this capacitor. So which one to select? So and that should be compatible with the two-port network theorem. That means this capacitor, if I convert to the primary side, it should be 0.2. Again, if you convert this capacitor value to the output side, it should comply that capacitor. So generally, what is happening, if you select CF 0.2, if you reflect it as the boost converter, the output side impedance will be very low, or capacitor, what value you will get, it will be out of this boundary. Okay, you may find here or you may find here, so out of the boundary. So then what happens, that 0.2 is okay for the photovoltaics. 0.2 is okay with when you convert it to the output side, and there definitely will have a 100 hertz ripple. So the general I mean the procedure is going back. That means this capacitor value what you are getting, just you try to reflect it to the primary side using two-port network conversion theorem. And if you do that, so basically this is the thing. And another analogy is the capacitor current. If you check because it depends upon the voltage as well as the impedance, you see that you are changing the capacitor at DC link voltage, and you see the capacitor current is changing much. And if you change the capacitor value here, okay, then you see that the voltage do not change much. So you are allowed to change this capacitor. Okay, so that is the conclusion. And next is that the capacitor value what you are going to select here, that is you keep it fixed, and then you just transfer it, looking at the output side, what should be the input side impedance, and then you can find out the capacitor value using two-port network transformation theorem. So this ZIN, the input impedance looking from this network, is this one. This is square okay, and you just do one thing. You have to just, for a CF value, you have to put this is the impedance plot. This is your ZIN, and for different output capacitor ZDC C0, you can see for a different capacitor value here you increase it. Let us say 200 microfarad. If you reduce it, then it is for 1 milli. You increase it, then 1 millifarad. There is no problem as long as you see the 200 microfarad. If you further reduce it, let us say 100 microfarad, unless until it is below of that particular graph, then there is no problem. Therefore, you see that green line is the best line, so you can select microfarad for the safety side. So therefore, 100 microfarad should be the output capacitor, and from there you just replace the value. You can get the value from side. If you do that, I have calculated the CF value to be around 0.4 to 0.5 per unit, required. But here, when every time it is not possible that you will always know operation. So that's why there's range 0.4 to 0.8 per unit capacitor value is one. Okay, so already you have. And the question is that what should be the perturbation frequency, because CF value anyway so TR equal to half cycle, so equal to CF AR say L1 and LF into CF. So CF value already and what should be the value of L, that you do not know, and for that you need to know what should be the minimum duty ratio, so that you do not have kind of error in the maximum power point tracking. So basically, if you use the perturbation observe method, what is the perturbation frequency that you need to know, and if you know the perturbation frequency, you can calculate the properly value of inductor value, because capacitor value when you have calculated, now you have to calculate the inductor value. So that will be coming from the frequency selection. Now another question here, that I have a use a boost converter, and you already know if you increase the switching frequency of the particular thing, then you can faster, you can make the system dynamic faster. But once always you remember that if you increase the switching frequency, basically you are increasing the switching loss. Okay, so therefore it is important how you can operate the system with lesser amount of frequency. Therefore, the perturbation frequency you can design, and then perturbation frequency determination is very easy. You can determine from that perturbation frequency. When you determine, then you can find out the switching frequency, and from the switching frequency you can calculate the value of L which is required in case of boost converter, which actually do not deviate from the requirement, like transient time requirement, and this capacitor value requirement, as well as this output side second Hertz ripple factor. In the next slide, you see I have done the simulation. You can see that in higher amount of capacitor, if you do not select properly, that you have this kind of extra power is happening. Whereas if you select properly 0.2 per unit to 0.4 per unit, then there is very less amount of power which is there, or loss is there. So here, tracking error, I have termed it as tracking error, and this is the capacitor voltage. You see the dynamics is taking a lot of time here. Here dynamics is very less. So this is for less capacitor, and this is for 1.2 per unit. So you can see that difference between the capacitor voltage, because this capacitor voltage are only you are sensing to analyze the system. So time and the error you can see here. So whenever your capacitor value is less, the tracking error is less, and the settling time is also less. And if capacitor value is more, then you have more settling time and more tracking error for this particular thing. Okay, so similarly, I have done the hardware test. So all the simulation test is being done and analyze that. Okay, for a 4 kilowatt system, 2 kilowatt system, 1.2 kilowatt system, 1 kilowatt system, what is the error we are actually getting? 72 watt, 42 watt. So this kind of error we are getting for improper selection of the capacitor. So I have also simulated for this 200 microfarad in a 500 watt system. So it is coming around 6 watt system. So you see that if you increase the capacitor value, and you see the percentage error is basically increasing. So you have to theoretically say that's 0.2, but practically I already told it should be 0.6 or 2.6. So this is the best region you have to select, so that your performance can be improved. So these are the results, some results based on the perturbation and the tracking of the thing. Next, comparison, you see that the proposed thing is do not use the kind of proposed capacitor what we, I mean, the new algorithm. So it just you have to select the proper value of the capacitor, then a lot of things will be taken care of, and every performance has been improved. Even it is performing better than adaptive MPPT and flexible MPPT, all this stuff. Okay, so you can understand that your power module design is very much important, and hence it will can improve the system dynamics. Okay, and hence the performance as well. Okay, so I have discussed a lot, so I should do not discuss more here. Time limit is there, so I have to quickly finish. So here I already mentioned that if you use a lead acid battery, so its response time is around 100 for a 100 ampere hour battery, so 2 to 4 seconds. Whereas if you use a ultra capacitor, it's around 100 to 150 milliseconds. So ultra capacitor response time is very very fast compared to your lead acid battery. Okay, so lead acid battery is good enough to supplement the base energy, but if you have a peak demand, let us say this is the peak demand, so that energy can be supplied by the ultra capacitor. So this is the thing we need to focus on to maintain the overall stability. So here in this today's discussion, I have discussed about the parameter selection of this capacitor, maybe the inductor value. Okay, here this capacitor, what should be this capacitor value, and next class I will be discussing about the topological variation of this bidirectional converter. There is some classes will be taken by Professor Tanmoy Roy Choudhury, who will be talking about the characteristics required for the boost converter here we want to use, okay, for a better operation. Definitely that ripple current is an issue, because the capacitor whatever you are using, it should the best part is that the ripple content is bypassing through the capacitor, so that you can current coming in from the PV side. So you can see from the graph here, so this is the ripple current, that ripple current definitely will be there for the inductor ripple current, and this inductor ripple current, and this inductor ripple current can be decomposed into two sections. One current here, input current, one is the capacitor current. So if you make sure that your source current should be any ripple free, then you have to sure that all the ripple content should be bypassed to the capacitor. So that's why this capacitor also another take place it do another important work, that it bypasses the ripple content, so that from PV panel you can always get a steady current. So another that is also there, and another topological still, if you have let us say you are ideally can generate take this kind of current, but even though there is some portion of ripple content present in kind of AC, because of the capacitor is a passive element. So therefore, your topology of whatever boost converter or other converter you are selecting here, that should comply this thing, so that your source current should be anyway ripple free, to make to enhance the life of the PV. So one approach is that you use two inductor in parallel, or it's called interleaved structure. So if you use the interleaved structure, what will happen, that one inductor current is this, another inductor current, if you add like this, then if you add them together, you can get the steady current. But the problem is you are using the two number of switches. So the question is it possible to design this circuit using only one switch, and you have this kind of characteristics? So people are working on that. It is a great problem, that how we can design a topology of single switch, and where your input current is a fixed steady, and you have the both inductor current, or maybe I don't know, okay, the network you have to find out, so that you can have a 180 degree set or interleaving structure between these two, and your source current will be the steady one. Okay, along with this, those power module is being done, and the first string you have successfully designed. So let us say this is your first module. There is a master module, and then one thing is that number of modules should be connected in parallel to supply this load. Hence, that control of individual, controller is also important. So here, master slave control is very much useful. So you can consider that to be one master, and other thing are slave. So the reference current you can generate from the master, and you can control other slaves without increasing the complexity of the but it has a problem that if you have a problem in master, then all slaves are actually working unstable operation. So that's why distributed control are actually emerging. So here in my laboratory, what I have implemented, I have implemented master slave control. Okay, this is the input and outer loop, current is there, and voltage loop is also there. I do not have time, so I will skip in that discussion. So 9227 is current sensor module, 9260 these modules are required so that you can design the hardware. Now next, this is the model that I have prepared for the low voltage DC microgrid. This is the power module, basically 4 units. There's one unit, second unit, a third unit and a fourth unit. So 4 units are connected in parallel, and this is battery charger unit, and this is the source side unit or a photovoltaic unit. Okay, so they are supporting end, and we can form a grid, and this is the driver side. And so because all the microcontroller gives a 5-volt signal, and to control the MOSFET here, so we need a 15 volt, so that is a requirement of driver. So this is the driver side, and this is the total system I have designed. So this one is the power module, this is the driver module, this is the controller module, and this is the relay, automatic sensing and protecting relay unit. So the relay unit, all system will be automatically controlled. Okay, and every platform is being designed and updated by this LabVIEW system or LabVIEW controller. This is the overall system you can see again, and these meters will intentionally designed or to see that instantaneous voltage and instantaneous current in a reading. So you do not need to put every time the CRO here. Check carefully. And the last thing is that I just quickly wind it up. You see that even I have designed the power module successfully. Basically, I need to design the controller, and you see that I have already discussed in one slide that basically the power characteristics. It has a minimum amount of current and is a maximum. So in this range, I have to operate. Even though I operate in this range, if I ask you what is the input impedance, sorry, what is the impedance for this particular converter looking from the output side, and why it is important, you know that already all of you know that we have a, let us say, voltage source, and we have an impedance. And then if I ask you what is the characteristics, then you can say, okay, V minus I into Z equal to the terminal voltage. So you can have a proper characteristics of loading characteristics with respect to x-axis is loading and y-axis is the voltage. So ideally, all the analysis I have seen that they miss the basic fundamental point, they analysis to a simple straight line. Okay, but unfortunately it is not like that. So this Z, which is the impedance looking from the output side, is actually not a constant function. Is a part, some part is a constant and some part is a variable of load current or load dependent component. Another component is a ESR component. If you see or analyze it properly, you can find that characteristics is very, it is not linear, it is actually non-linear. Sometimes you are fortunate, and that sometimes it also depends upon the how loading you are increasing with respect to time. Let us say with respect to time you are increasing the loading like a straight line, so your graph will be like this. Okay, and your loading is abrupt or something like that, that may, the path may be sinusoidal, the path may be different graph. So this is the thing that I have seen, that there is a missing element. So how you can how you can design your controller like you using piecewise mixed model, basically to convert the nonlinearity into the linear sections, and then you can generate your own model to actually, so that your proper sharing of the current can happen for individual sections. This is one string, and there may be number of strings connected, so all the strings should be share current proportionally, so that this is the problem number one. And problem number two here, internal stability of this is microgrid. Internal stability means all of you know that if we have a right half, or if all the poles are in the left half side, so the system is stable. Even though let us say that we generally consider it like that, but if you see the dynamic equation, the differential equation, there is an initial condition. So a system of a dynamic system, it may have a pole which is left lies in the left hand side, but if your initial condition, if you consider, then in a closed loop system, if you analyze, then your closed loop feedback system, you can find that there is a 2 to 1 right half 0, one pole will be coming in the right half side, so that makes the system unstable. So not only the dominant pole or dominant characteristics pole are important, but also the initial condition of this converter is important. Initial condition means this capacitor voltage, this inductor current, and this capacitor voltage. These initial conditions are important to investigate the internal stability. So it may happen that you see that the poles are lights on the side, the system is stable, but you do not consider the internal stability. It may happen that the output capacitor voltage may be unstable, even though your controller is saying that it is stable. So this is another important area, that internal stability of DC microgrid. That is the current work I am working, current work I am doing with PhD on PhD faculty here working in the electronics department. He is actually doing that, and okay, and these are the some reference publication and journal publication related to today's talk. So thank you. If you have any question, you can ask.
Yes, any
So
participant?
Sarita madam, I have not taken
No, sir. Sir, any
I have not
question?
taken much time.
No, not at
Okay,
all, sir.
thank you.
Any question from the audience? Okay, I think there is no question. So thank you, Subhendu sir, for your nice and very much informative session. I hope all the faculty members would benefited from this one. Our next session that will be our resource person is Professor Subhra Devdas sir. Now I request Ranjita madam to give the formal introduction of Professor Subhra Devdas sir.
Thank you,
madam. Yes.
Thank you, Subhendu sir. Nice presentation. Okay, continue.
Sir. So already yesterday I have introduced Professor Subhra Devdas sir, and he is associate professor in our School of Electrical Engineering KTU, and he will be continuing the session on IoT. Okay, so Subhra Devdas sir, kindly start your session.
Yes, madam. Good afternoon to everyone.
Okay.
My voice is audible because I am facing also the same problem due to the rain.
Yeah. We can hear.
So I'm not going to share my screen, not my video. Only due to there is no internet, I am using just my hotspot. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So I'm just going to share my screen. I think my screen is visible. Let's check.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So just a moment, please. So today I'm not going to share anything, any PPT, nothing. Today totally just an interaction mode. And I already told that today I just going to present some of the third-party software or some of the third-party platform that basically we are using during this IoT, just data sending or data receiving or giving a notification, tweeting, SMS, message, Gmail, everything. So this is the IFTTT. This is the platform. That platform is providing everything to you. So IFTTT is basically, it's to stand for if this, then that. This is the main topic. If this, then that. This is the topic. So I'm just going to share this one, and this platform will going to help you a lot in your day-to-day life. Just a moment, please. So basically, with this platform, you have to make an account, and this account you can make with your personal Gmail accounts or if you are having any professional account, that also you can attach with this one. Basically, I used to this platform in 2015. And at that time, so they are providing lots of opportunity to use so many numbers of applets. Basically, we are talking about whatever the things you are going to do, they are talking about this is the applets, just like a Fiverr. Fiverr is a freelancer platform. They're talking about the gigs. So here they are talking about the applets. Okay. So that time they are providing more than 10